All right. How you doing, Tab?
I'm doing all right.
Hopeful Tribe. This is my friend Tabitha. We used to be co-workers too, and I miss seeing her 5 days a week. So I invited her to come interview here. And how's it going there, Tab?
Oh, kind of it's not the same without you for sure.
Oh.
Um, it's always interesting. There's always um a lot of heavy stuff.
hmm One crisis after another, I imagine.
Yeah. Mhm.
It is an emergency psychiatric crisis unit, so
Yeah, yeah.
that is the nature of the place.
Right.
And I thought it was really interesting to spend the pandemic there, you know?
Yeah.
What a time to be in a place like that, but then also what an opportunity to be there for people
Mhm.
during an extra hard time.
Yeah, I think it was more interesting that people with private insurances were calling to get referred there because like everyone's mental health was kind of just tanking when it first hit. So that immediate support that wasn't available to like nobody wanted to go to this facility, which is like unfortunate. Like you would think they would have those resources or paying the money for it, and they didn't.
hmm Yeah, yeah, and we saw quite a few people who had never needed that level of services
Mm-hmm.
before,
Yeah.
too,
Mm-hmm.
which was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
eye-opening
A
to
lot of
say.
people who lost were unemployed and, the staying inside all the time, not able to socialize, and it really took a
Mhm.
toll on like everybody. I mean, it it tends it's usually like that, mental health just takes a toll on whatever crisis people are going through, but it really I feel like it humbled people because we don't ever realize that we could get there and we can easily just need that extra support.
Mhm. For sure. So I jumped off and I started doing Hopeful Tribe,
Hmm.
which is this thing that offers comfort and community coaching and coping skills to people for free on the internet. And it's
Yeah.
really been fun. I mean, whole different kind of situation. And I feel like even though I'm fully into what I'm doing, my heart will always be with people who are struggling at
Hmm.
that level,
Yeah.
you know, and out in the community.
Yeah.
It's just it's just really unfortunate that um, there's so many severe mental health issues out there, and then so few resources. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, it hurts to see the people who, are so severe that being in the community isn't safe for them, but yet they're what's the word? Functioning enough that they can be in a locked facility, and it's like a lot of people are just falling through these cracks, and there's like no type of resource for people who are functioning enough but still not enough to be out in the world, and that's what that's what I hate seeing.
hmm
There's just so many people that fall through the cracks, and kind of what Maggie says, the world is just too big for them, and
hmm
there's like really no sustainable support that can actually help them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we had people who had homes to return to,
Hmm.
but then when they got home, they couldn't find any outpatient support
Yeah.
because all the therapists are full,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And and they're going to be probably for the next couple years,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody's still recovering. So
Yeah.
you
Or not
know.
even that, just families still not knowing how to cope with it themselves or don't believe in it, or just the strong cultural factors involved too. That's hard too, to have that small support, but then you go back and it's just the cycle of starting all over again. Because I mean, mental health is still something that a lot of people don't believe in, or what my family says, it's common sense. It's not common sense.
Common sense. I like that one. That's actually one of the nicer ways I've heard it said.
Drives me crazy. I was like, it's not common sense.
Oh man. Yeah. 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 Well, I think one of the things that makes me so crazy about our system is that people who are having mental health issues, all of the responsibility gets put on them
Yeah.
for having them,
Yep.
as if they weren't living in this crazy society that we're
Right.
living in, you know,
Right.
and that might have influenced them somehow.
Mhm.
You know?
Or even people realizing that, you could be a trigger to like what's going on, like it's very common where, you know, especially like in like the baby boomers are like triggering like their kids, then like for millennials, like, definitely suffered a lot of like emotional traumas. And, then parents are so quick to say, like, I gave you everything, you were so spoiled. It's like, you talked really bad to me. Like, I'm hurt. you know?
Yeah.
And, we're
Mhm.
just so blinded by that too. And that's not recognized because it's another common sense thing that you're just too sensitive or too soft. And it's like, it's
Oh,
not that. Like it sucks. It sucks to be told those things or feel unloved, or like it makes a huge impact of like how you see
yeah.
yourself in the world.
Yeah, you know, I got told I was too sensitive all
Hmm.
the time as I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I think it took me leaving home and meeting people who, appreciated me as I was
Yeah.
before I realized that there really wasn't anything wrong with being
Hmm.
sensitive
Right.
and not liking to be mistreated, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, even this past weekend, my mom was all, "You're so spoiled and you just don't want to go home." And I'm just like, where? Yes, I had a home, had food. Did we
Mhm.
struggle at times? Yeah, for sure. But I mean, we were still a broken family that took a toll on all of us. Like, you can't discredit that. You can't discredit that you're still healing for whatever happened in our household. I'm trying to, work on whatever happened in our household as, a kid, then as an adult, and like, or even now, like in the field, like, why did you take that job?
Mm.
Why does my aunt have depression and now you're kind of sensitive about it? Because 2 years ago, when she wasn't diagnosed, it was a dumb job. Now it's not so
Mm.
job. Like it's all
Oh.
it's all very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and my mom was a psychiatrist.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, it got very complicated, you
Hmm.
know. Uh, um, Quite often, my mom would pathologize me
Hmm.
when she was angry at me uh, to, kind of use her power in that way. And so for the longest time, I never wanted to go near this field, you know.
Right,
So
right.
it's kind of funny that I ended up,
Yeah.
getting a master's in psychology anyway. And then just feeling so drawn to the work too. I
Right,
mean,
right.
like, yeah, it's just funny to me because for the longest time, because of the things my psychiatrist mom said, I didn't want to be
Hmm.
anywhere near mental health,
Right, right.
you know. Our families, they're
Yeah,
complicated.
yeah.
And it can take years to recover. I feel like now, if my mom was still alive, we'd be friends
Hmm.
because I I've like healed my stuff now and I
Right.
get her.
Mm-hmm.
But what you gonna do?
Yeah.
It took as long as it took to recover, you know?
Yeah, definitely. What we were talking about, like last night, where someone's asking me about like work, and she's like, "Oh, it must be so hard." I was like, "I mean, your stress is like could be the same as my stress, and people don't realize like there's no like higher end of stress or anxiety or depression. Like if you feel it, like it's valid, it's there, but
Hmm.
nothing is like bigger than somebody else. Like we're just feeling it in different ways or impacted in different ways.
Yeah, totally. Totally. How long have you been working in mental health?
2 years only.
Wow, 2 years. And what do you wish people had told you before you started?
Say that again.
What do you wish people had told you before you started?
Huh. I wish they would have told me to prepare for school.
Oh,
Because I think I already walked in like expecting the unexpected. So
mm,
I knew I had an interest, but I just came in hitting the ground running. So kind of wasn't too sure. I wish I got told that sometimes people suck and are in the field for no reason. I I wish somebody told me that to save my frustration, because I hate working with clinicians who don't care about
mm,
their people, or they're like, well, they go back to the street. Like, what do you mean? Like, they're literally spiraling right now.
mm. I know. I worked in community mental health since, well, on and off. I took breaks
Hmm.
since 1987. And one of the things that's always struck me in most of the places I've worked is that when I work with people,
Hmm.
my bosses are usually shocked that I'm actually working with people. And I'm like, wait, isn't that my job?
Right, right.
But I guess clinicians are not actually expected to do anything but the paperwork.
Yeah, no. That's
So
boring.
yeah, that's the boring part. And I mean, I managed to figure out how to do that, which is pretty awesome, right? But like
Yeah,
because every year it feels like they add more forms.
yeah.
Like why?
Right, right, right,
How is this helping anyone?
right.
I don't get it.
I know.
But
I got asked because I'm going back to school, and they're like,
mhm.
so like, are you gonna like want to change the policies? And I was like, nah, man, I'm trying to be in the cuts with them. I'm trying to get down and dirty, kick it with them, meet them at their level. Just because people suck and they don't see other people at their level, they just see this big money spectrum of it all. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be there and like make that little change, because that big change, you have to go through all these layers, and the people who aren't in the cuts don't know what's going on and create these dumb policies. So might as well save my breath and just be in the field.
Mhm. Mhm. Make the small changes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you stay in the field long enough, it doesn't have to stay small,
Right.
because there's that ripple effect,
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
you help one person, then, they're available to help countless others. So,
Right. Right. Me and Ash were actually just talking about this the other day, and you know, just especially with the pandemic, like just this cycle of people in and out of facility after program due to like homelessness and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, it sucks that the little resources we had got taken away. So,
mhm.
we just don't see those impacts, and you just see this constant struggle with substance use, mental health, homelessness. But then, we see some of the few people that come back and they're like, you literally saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks to say, like, it's few and far between just because of the lack of resources, and the pandemic took a big hit on everybody. But, when those people come back and, and you see the changes, that's what's cool.
It
Especially
is.
like,
It's very gratifying,
yeah, yeah,
especially since the people when we start working with them are like at the lowest
yeah.
possible place in their lives, and they're
Yeah.
homeless, and you
Mhm.
know,
Yeah.
so it's pretty dramatic when
Mhm.
it works,
Yeah. Yeah, for
and I
sure.
think that's part of what's kept me hooked.
Mhm.
Plus, I mean, I've had, really good outcomes, and it's
Right.
been really gratifying over the years
Mhm.
to, you know, see people who stay in touch, because of social media, will reach out to me, right?
Oh, right, right.
And be like, Sue, and send me pictures of their babies and tell me what they're
Oh.
doing. And I can't tell you how many of my past clients became therapists anymore because I've lost count.
Mhm. Nice.
And yeah, it's nice. I mean, I think it's really great. And part of why I started this channel was I was frustrated by um not being able to help enough people.
Right.
And so I thought, ooh, this could be a way to really scale the work, you
Right.
know? Um, and I was just wondering, have you had a chance to read Pedagogy of the Oppressed yet?
I've been reading little by little.
Oh, cool, cool. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
it's a little
Yeah.
dense, right?
Yeah, and it's just, busy at work all the time.
Yeah. I was trying to share it. Why is it not sharing? Share. Okay, there you go. So this is the book I was referencing. It's Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire. He actually is older than my parents. He is no longer with us in physical form,
Mhm.
um, but amazing, uh, brilliant guy
Mhm.
who has been a big influence on a lot of us, who are out on the streets working with people.
Mhm.
And I just really believe that these nonprofits that we've worked at, and certainly not the government, they're really not gonna fix things, you
That's
know.
what's unfortunate, it capitalist America, like people, like, they see numbers, they see the dollar. And
Hmm.
for how good intentions the idea is, unfortunately, we are a capitalist society that will always want the dollar. And that's why there's these cycles, and like that's why these policies, it's hard to like change these policies, because it's what's the revenue, like what's getting brought in, and that's what's so unfortunate. And like that's why homelessness is still very much there. Like we're still very much in a huge housing crisis, about to be in an even bigger one once like everyone has to start paying all their bills again. Like,
Uh,
then
I'm able to block that out most of the time, and when you said it, it just hit my heart really hard, like because I know people who are months and months behind on their rent.
yeah.
You
And
know.
and it's just this system, and the 1% is going to always have this cycle to keep everyone else oppressed, and just that mindset, or this cycle of it all. It's frustrating, so it takes a little bit of hope away, because it's just like, bro, like, you're part of the problem. Like, this idea is great, yeah, let's go help, low income and like people who are struggling, but it's still, you're not seeing the big picture.
Hmm.
And you don't really understand what's going on down here,
Hmm.
so you're making up all these rules that aren't working. And even one of the directors at work was like, yeah, like the cycle in this county is like the worst. You know, it's just a cycle and there's like nothing changing. And I'm like, you make the change.
Yeah. Dude, you have more power.
Yeah, do it. Like, you see
I
this,
mean,
do
the thing
it.
is, I have a friend. Her name's Tiny, right? And
Hmm.
she is a co-founder of this organization called Poor Magazine,
Hmm.
and she calls the nonprofit world the nonprofit industrial complex
Hmm.
because it's just another big capitalist system.
Yep.
And once a nonprofit gets a certain size, all they care about is sustaining themselves financially.
Right.
They
Right.
stop caring about their mission or their employees or even the people
Hmm.
they serve, you
Yeah.
know? And it's just really frustrating,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, which is why I really admire the theory that Paulo so long ago put out there about people-led movements. I really don't think that the government or the nonprofits are going to save us. I
Right.
think we have to heal ourselves and then save ourselves
Yeah.
because after all, we are the 99%, right?
Yeah.
So if we decided we weren't playing this game anymore, there's nothing they could do.
Right. And as a whole, like, we a lot of like we all forget about it. You know, we're like, dang, we got to follow this rule or else I'm gonna get in trouble by the one person that makes
Exactly.
the rule. Like, no, man. Like, if we actually want to come together and fight and not be against each other, like, we could do it. But
Mhm.
we allow that 1% to convince us to be against each other, and it's minority against minority. I
Oh
hate you
yeah.
for this reason. I hate you for this same reason. It's like, bro, like, if we actually believe that we're all oppressed together and want to make that
Mhm.
change, let's do it. Like, let's talk together. Let's be friends. Let's like, okay, like, we could actually have this power together.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Hmm.
It's just uh, really hard because the system is so oppressive that most people don't even have the headspace to think
Right.
like this, right?
Right.
Or the time. They're
Hmm.
just caught up all the time trying to,
Hmm.
keep a roof over their head, or
Yeah.
or if they're, you know, better paid, then they're trying to like keep up with the Joneses and like,
Right.
you know,
Right.
look good, because it's all about looking good in this country,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
You don't actually have to feel good. You
Yeah.
just look good, and then everybody likes you, you
Yeah.
know? And
Yeah.
it's
It's
yeah,
it's
very
ridiculous and it's very unfortunate. So, hopefully one day we could all be woke. Is what the kids say these days.
right,
We could all be
right.
woke together.
That's funny when you say it.
Hey, I'm just an old soul, I don't even know.
Oh, man. I love it. How old are you now?
Man, I'm 26. I'm still pretty young,
26.
but I'm an
What?
old soul. Like,
Yeah,
instead of
you
being woke,
definitely
I
are.
tell my family we all just need to be educated and understand what each institution, culture is like going through or experiencing, to understand each other and not just he said, she said, point fingers. Then, that would probably work out a little better and like there'd be less, police brutality or like
Yeah.
racism or, all those social issue things.
Mm-hmm. Um, have you gotten to the part of the book where he outlines the steps to liberation?
No.
Okay, let me teach you because I think other people might have not read this book either. Um, and I used to teach community mental health at CIAS, right?
Mhm.
So I just happened to have this chart I created for my class that I thought I'd pull out. So here there's the stages of liberation.
Hmm.
Um, um, one column is Freire's stages, and one is Memi's, which is more like a decolonization kind of model, but
Hmm.
they both follow the same general path to liberation. And I think it's really interesting to look at. I feel like most people in America are in stage one, which Freire called magical consciousness. So, in this stage, the oppressed have a diffuse magical belief in the invulnerability and power of the oppressor,
For sure.
right? They
Hmm.
just feel like there's nothing they could do because it's so big, right? The oppressor is too big to fight. Characterized by fatalism, submersion in the reality of oppression. So, all they know is oppression. If
I
you
think
question,
more people are getting into stage 2 now.
yeah, yeah, I'm hoping. And then Memi's first stage is the colonized person accepts self as an inferior object,
Hmm.
right? So, like, they're right. They have it good, and we get the crumbs because we're inferior.
Right.
You know, that was really hard for me to face when I visited the Philippines. I
Mm-hmm.
only have been to the Philippines once in my life. I grew up here and I got to go one time when I was 50. And, everyone has servants there. And the servants had this very subservient kind of attitude with us.
Hmm.
Like, we were somehow superior to them, and it freaked me out because I'm so American.
Right.
I just had never experienced that before. So I was like, whoa, whoa. I thought we were colonized here, but that's a whole nother level, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like most countries like hate us, and like I even say now, like just being in California, like we're very much privileged and like we forget about that. So like, that's why even when we go from like to Alabama from California or like the other states within the United States, like, you know, that's how people look at us. If you're from California or New York, they just think Hollywood or like money, business, and
Yeah.
we forget that we have that privilege just from our like location where we're at on the east or west coast.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, in just any third world country I've been to, if they hear you're from America, they think you're super wealthy, you
Right,
know?
right.
And yeah, they don't know. Like,
Yeah,
anyway, uh, step two. Is this interesting to you?
yeah.
Oh, cool. Um, would be naive consciousness. So people can identify problems, but only in terms of problem people.
Yeah,
So, like that whole obsession with Trump, right?
yeah.
Not that he wasn't a problem. I'm just saying he wasn't the only problem.
Right,
We
right.
had problems long before Trump. People have a fragmented understanding of the causes of problems. They don't understand that individual oppressive acts are the result of oppressive systems, characterized by internalized oppression and double consciousness. And then on Memi's side, it says colonized person rejects self to become like the colonizer, to
Mm-hmm.
assimilate, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Were your parents immigrants?
No.
No. So my parents were immigrants, and assimilation was a huge thing that was expected of them and of us
Mm-hmm.
growing up. And it was really hard
Hmm.
psychologically because um, it was really clear from the outside that we didn't fit
Right.
in our all white private schools, you know.
Yeah.
um, it was pretty clear that we were not like the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they let us know all the time. I even had a science teacher one time tell me that my brain was different than the other kids'
Oh,
brain.
wow.
Yeah. I was like, "Are you not a science teacher?" Anywho, it was intense, and yeah. Then I went to high school in downtown Chicago, and the kids were a lot more diverse. There were kids from all over the city,
Mm-hmm.
and and none of the kids wanted to hang out with me because I didn't fit in any of the segregated groups because
Mm-hmm.
I'm mixed, right? So I didn't fit with the Filipinos because I was too mixed, and I didn't speak Tagalog, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just thank God I found the theater geeks and the musicians to hang out with because otherwise I'd have no friends.
Uh-oh.
But it was interesting the whole, pressure to assimilate and the idealization,
Mm-hmm.
of the American,
Right. Right. Which is
you know.
common, and like that's why like people like in my generation, if like their parents or like for me, my grandparents, you know, come from somewhere else and they try so hard to just fit in with the Americans, like
Mhm.
you don't know Spanish like me, and they're like, why don't you know Spanish? But it's like, well, like back then it definitely was frowned upon for you to, be speaking Spanish, and you could only speak Spanish in your home, and now it's frowned upon because I'm not bilingual. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, the pediatrician told my parents that if they taught us their native languages,
mhm,
that we would never get jobs.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now
Yeah.
translators make so much money.
I know. Oh my gosh. I am gonna work on my Spanish and Tagalog, though, I swear to God. I have tried many times, but I'm gonna get it. It's not cool that got stolen.
Yeah.
So step 3, let's see. Critical consciousness. The oppressed find the oppressor out and become involved in the organized struggle for humanization, characterized by critical reflection, liberating dialogue, and action. What? And then on the memory side, the colonized person rejects the colonizer and colonial rule to reaffirm themselves, and problems are viewed with respect to community rather than individual. So,
Maybe
what do
one
you
day. Maybe one day.
Hey, we're engaged right now in liberating dialogue.
Yeah.
So there. And
Yeah.
you're not the only person I talk to about these things.
Right.
I just think um, little by little, people are waking up, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, and once we get to a critical mass, then real change can happen.
Right. Just the value of power and money just needs to slowly go away. The maybe
Mhm,
individualism will go away of godlike perceptions and whatnot.
mhm, mm. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a whole episode on liberation psychology
Hmm.
and see what happens.
Hey.
It's one of the fun things about YouTube, like, nobody can tell me I can't.
Right. 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 I mean, it'll be eye opening. Like, hey, maybe we should all come together. Maybe I shouldn't strive to be this business person and make these policies to make big bucks that do nothing to help anybody.
Well, and how did we end up in this position where we're homeless when this land was originally ours
Right.
and then it got stolen? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now we have to pay them to get a little piece of it to
Right.
live on. That's not that's not cool.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
In fact, I think the UN agrees that it was, a war crime.
Yeah. That's
Uh, yeah.
ridiculous.
Mhm.
Especially if, a lot of people have, especially in California, multiple jobs. One is to pay their studio, that could be up to $2,000, and I'm only getting paid minimum wage. Like, what?
Yeah.
How?
It's so crazy. So crazy. There's so many challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is the biggest challenge to people waking up?
The biggest challenge, I don't know. I think the biggest challenge is still coming together as a whole, just because, we're set in our minds that everyone's evil. We're
Mhm.
taught that people are evil, certain people are evil, and getting over that fear and distrust in everybody else. I think that's going to be the hard thing, or even forgiving for the people who, did do something to somebody else that really, like, gave them trauma or whatever. That healing part of it all too is going to be hard.
Mhm. Mhm. Let me share my screen one more time. I have like a list of the challenges. We can talk about it. Like, the first one was what you mentioned. It says in a colonized world, our model of humanity is oppressive and sadistic,
Hmm.
right? So it's hard to bring people together when there's a lot of people that are doing harm, you know? And it's kind of hard to imagine that people aren't naturally that way, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Um, I was talking to this guy the other day, such a nice guy, used to be a vet, he's retired now,
Hmm.
and we were hanging out, and there was a little girl running around in the yard we were hanging out in, and she was just so joyful, like little kids are.
Hmm.
And I said, I think joy is our natural state. And I can't remember what he said, but he thought I was crazy. He tried to argue with me about it, but I was like, it's cool. You don't have to
Right.
believe me.
No, that's interesting you said that, because my therapist gave me a task to really focus on in the moment. So my partner has a 4-year-old daughter, and he's like, use
Mhm,
that as a tool. Like, as a child, you're so amazed and in the moment of things.
mhm.
And as we get older, we forget to do that. So I do think joy or like excitement can be or is a natural state, in this amazed, like just being amazed at everything is part of our natural state that we just lost over time as we grow up.
Yeah. But, look, I'm living proof that you can regain it,
Yeah, this is true.
even if you're old and you're
Yeah,
not old, you can get it back.
yeah.
You know? It's just, that present thing is really important to it.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
I if I stay centered in now, I always have what I need,
right.
you know? So I'm fine.
Right, right, right.
But the minute I start thinking about the past or worry about what's
Mhm.
coming,
Yeah,
it's over. No more happy times.
yeah.
What else they got in here? Let's see. We got um, submersion in the reality of oppression or identification with the oppressor. Ooh, that's deep. Yeah, my mom used to sing the praises of science because she was a medical doctor,
Mhm.
and she would call all the traditional, indigenous beliefs backwards.
Mhm.
And, I really, even when I was a kid, considered that identification with the oppressor, because for some reason, even when I was a little kid, I didn't buy that science was the only thing,
Right.
you know? And even just one religion couldn't tell the whole truth of humanity.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? Like, I knew I'm probably one of those old souls too. I knew that a lot of what was being sold to me was BS.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I had the unfortunate characteristic of needing to speak out about it too.
Mhm.
Some kids can just go along with the BS. I just never
Right.
could.
Right.
I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
was like
no.
that too as a kid. Like I just couldn't. I was always definitely my own person. Like I didn't want to follow what they were doing. Like no, man, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I don't know. I'm not gonna be somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's probably why we both have gotten to this,
Yeah.
woke place or whatever. We were kind of born that way,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's
And you
not
know,
like
there's
we
like
had to go through a process so much.
right, right. I mean, and everyone has their own truths. Like the way life is, like you can't really fully understand anything because there's like so
Yeah.
many sides, or like like that's why to me like it's so important to like hear somebody, because like I don't know, like I don't know what your life is. I don't know how you perceive things. Like you're going to perceive the color blue differently than I do, like everything has its own truth. And so it's like you can't just stick to one thing and one thing only, because even if you are religious, like the way you perceive that verse is going to be different how somebody else does and how you live by it. So it's like there's not just this
Hmm.
one thing or categories of things. Like there's so many different truths and things to like live by, and not just the law of whatever law, science, law of religion, or government law. Like
Right? Tab for president.
no, thank you. Do not want that type
She's
of
like, no.
responsibility.
I know that's a horrible job. I would not like that job unless I was like um the last president in did you ever read Slapstick?
Nah.
Uh I'm a big Kurt Vonnegut fan, and he has a book called Slapstick.
Hmm.
And in the book, um this guy becomes the last president of the
Hmm.
United States. And what he does is he creates artificial extended families.
Hmm.
So people have to take care of the people that are in their artificial extended families.
Oh,
So
interesting.
nobody's ever homeless again. Everybody always
Interesting.
has enough to eat. It's very cool.
Well,
So, and
the
then the
concept.
government dissolves because it's not necessary anymore.
Right.
You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So if I was the last president, that could be fun.
Hmm.
I would enjoy that.
Right.
Should we do one more of these?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. We got uh let's see which one. Oh, let's skip down to this. Lack of time to reflect and lack of time to organize. This is something that I've pondered for a while. Like, is reflection and organization only for people of privilege?
Mm, yes and no. Only because I feel like the organization is just rushed, so it's not even thought out thoroughly. It's just something getting put together. You know, you have the power to do this, but you're still not doing it in like the appropriate way. But I feel like even the privileged don't really reflect on what they're doing.
Yeah, true, true. But they can
Yeah,
because they do have the time,
yeah,
you know? Yeah. They're choosing not to is
yeah,
just because of some other challenge, right?
right.
But it's not because they don't have the time,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, I think it's really unfortunate, and I wonder if we're gonna have to push through some kind of universal basic income or something before people can even take time to reflect, you know?
I mean, I feel like, you know, you have to, like, and you know, you got some of the time, like, do it. Like, it is a choice for them to not to do it.
You think so? I mean, if you're like, okay, let's say you're on the streets
Hmm.
and you're just trying to survive one day at a time, do you really have time to reflect,
Right, right. Yeah.
you know?
Survival mode.
Yeah, you're just in survival mode, and I think a lot of people are there,
Hmm. Yeah,
even if they're not on the streets, they're just trying to get by,
yeah, yeah, that's true.
you know? Mm. What do you think are some of the things that could help people um, to kind of move along in their healing and their liberation?
Um, Man, honestly, just to be more mindful of like what's going on with them.
Mm,
We lose focus on ourselves and get
yeah.
like wound up on what's going on. Like if we're not healed, how can we move forward and heal as a whole?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're so broken, you're so projecting, then when you project, it kind of just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's why I'm such a huge advocate for self-care because I
Mm-hmm.
think that um if we are conscious of our own needs, then we'll have, even if it's just
Yeah.
a few moments
Mm-hmm.
of time for reflection, you
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that poor magazine I was talking about, I was volunteering there a few years back, and um, I said, "What are you guys doing for Memorial Day?" And they were like, working.
Right.
And I
Right.
was like, what if we didn't work? What if we just had a picnic? And they just were like, a picnic? And I feel like most of the activist groups I've known in my life are just like that. They just work, 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 work,
Yeah.
work, work, work all the time. And I get it, like the work is compelling.
Right.
Uh, but you can really hurt yourself like that,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes a picnic is really rejuvenating, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And once I got them out to the beach for a picnic, they were really happy, you
Yeah.
know? They liked it. They liked having time off. They just never had it before, so it
Right.
felt weird,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I have a neighbor who has never been on vacation,
Whoa.
right?
Yeah.
And she's my age. She's never had a vacation.
Sounds exhausting.
Right? Yeah. And imagine if you were working multiple jobs and raising multiple children and you had never had a vacation. Like,
Ugh,
what does that do to your psyche?
yeah,
So, yeah, we've got some challenges.
yeah, we do.
Mhm. We sure do. But I really thank you for coming.
Of
And I
course.
have my standard hopeful tribe last question.
How do I stay hopeful?
Yeah, how do you do it, Tab?
Um, Probably the motivation from the people we work with.
Aw,
Just you're at this bottom, so there's only one direction now. We just got to go up. So you just got to keep going. And we feel, even I feel like I'm at my bottom, and like, it's like, okay, like, take a step back, let's regroup and build that back up, because now it's time to go forward again. So, for down, the only direction to go now is up.
true. So true. I like that. Have a good night.
You too, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Okay.